China is paying people to make babies. Taiwan has failed to oust pro-CCP lawmakers from its parliament, and maybe Trump isn't so tough on China after all. Then more on this week's China News headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. You know what really gets people in the baby-making mood? Money! China has unveiled child care subsidies in a push to boost fertility. On Monday, the central government rolled out an annual cash handout per child of a sweet, whopping, life-altering $502 until the age of 3. Which doesn't sound like a lot of money, but hey, 600 million people in China make less than $145 a month. China's been trying for years now to find a way to boost its falling birth rate, which is partially thanks to 35 years of its disastrous one-child policy. Who would have thought that forcing people to have fewer babies would lead to people having fewer babies? The policy ended in 2015, but China's slowing economy and a rising cost of living, including childcare, has basically rendered the newer 2- and then 3-child policies pretty moot. The Chinese Communist Party is desperate because its population keeps aging and declining, which will make the economy even worse as time goes on. But adding people has to be tough for the CCP since, historically, communists are only good at getting rid of people. Local governments in China have already been handing out childcare subsidies of varying amounts, but according to Xinhua, these cash payments will be handled by the central government instead. Some analysts are skeptical this will work, including Professor Emma Zhang at Yale University. She said, without sustained structural investment in areas like affordable childcare, parental leave, and job protections for women, the effect on fertility is likely to remain minimal. But dear viewer, I too want you to have vast sums of wealth and many children. That's why I'm teaming up with Noble Gold. After more than a decade of gold companies reaching out to me, Noble Gold is the only gold company I felt was honest. And they're the only one I'm going to recommend to you. You don't have to buy gold, but you owe it to yourself to learn about gold as an investment strategy. That's why I'm offering a free gold and silver investment guide. And if you do choose to make a qualified investment in the next 90 days, you'll also get a free 10th ounce gold coin. Go to ChinaUncensoredGold.com or click the link below. Taiwan is having a bad time. An effort to oust China-friendly lawmakers from office in Taiwan has failed. The recall campaign was one of President William Lai's measures to crack down on the CCP's influence, sabotage, and espionage campaign on the island, especially given Beijing's increasingly aggressive rhetoric and seemingly endless military drills. It targeted legislators from the opposition KMT party who were seen as undermining Lai's effort and being friendly to China. But all 24 ended up still in office. The problem is all these people were elected in 2024. So the people in their districts that already voted for them once, just a year ago, have not suddenly changed their minds. In a few weeks, there will be a second round of recall petitions targeting 7 more opposition legislators. But with the failure of this round, it doesn't seem like Lai's party, the DPP, will be able to break the KMT's majority in the legislature. Professor Albert Teo of Tsinghua University says this means that Lai's anti-China angle is losing traction and that anti-communist China narratives need to be more targeted and patient. What's there to say? Don't invade us? Pretty please? Sprinkles on top? And in another stinging loss for Taiwan, the Trump administration blocked President Lai's planned stopover in New York after China intervened, which I'm sure has nothing whatsoever to do with the sensitive trade talks between Washington and the Chinese Communist Party, which will surely be a rousing success, as all talks with China are, since they're so transparent and trustworthy. Sorry, some sarcasm got stuck in my throat. President Lai planned on potentially stopping in Dallas and New York City on his way to visit some countries that recognize Taiwan, including Paraguay, Guatemala, and Belize. But the U.S. told him that he can't visit New York, and on Monday his office said that he isn't going on the trip after all due to typhoon recovery efforts and U.S. trade talks. Hopefully this is only a delayed trip instead of an outright cancellation, because in the backdrop of the failed vote, it would be very bad indeed if the island looked like it was being isolated by what few friends it had left. I'll choose to remain optimistic and believe the reason they were told not to visit New York is because, as a New Yorker, New York is freaking gross. China is opposing Czech President Petr Pavel's visit to the Dalai Lama, because of course it is. China's embassy in Prague said it resolutely opposed his meeting in India with the Dalai Lama and urged the Czech side to abide by its one China political commitment and maintain healthy and stable relations. Because nothing says you're in a healthy and stable relationship quite like isolating your partner and telling them who they're not allowed to see. The president's office said that the meeting was entirely private right after a working visit to Japan. But the CCP said that the Czechs should avoid encouraging separatism or sending wrong pro-independence signals. Something tells me this guy, a former NATO general, isn't going to be intimidated by China's nonstop rambling about the 90-year-old Dalai Lama. This guy looks like the world's first man to actually become cooler during a midlife crisis. Hey, remember like 2 minutes ago when I said talks with China are never productive? Well, in a completely unrelated story, China-US trade talks concluded without a deal to prevent tariffs from surging again. This is my shocked face. Glad we're not letting Taiwan's president in the country for that. Both countries' representatives held a 2-day meeting in Stockholm aimed at finding a resolution to the tariffs both sides imposed on each other. If no agreement is reached, starting on August 12th, both countries are set to impose the tariffs. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer tried to sound a positive note when speaking to reporters and suggested the talks were constructive and that a deal could be made, which sounds like a football team getting shut out and saying, "We learned a lot, and at least everyone had a good time." President Trump also appeared hopeful, saying he'll speak with the men soon and that hopefully a deal can be made. Though to be fair, of course he said that. Making deals is his whole brand, along with saying "you're fired" and moving his hands while he talks like the world's chattiest mime. But so far it seems that a few important sticking points remain to be solved, notably Chinese exports of rare earth minerals to the U.S., and the first Xi-Trump meeting since the president's second term began. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I bet Xi could get him to agree with a sweet, whopping, life-altering $502 annual cash handout for his next 3 years in office. And before you go, remember to check out Noble Gold. Someday you too can swim in a vault full of gold like Scrooge McDuck. This is not investment advice. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.